Hey everyone, Sari here. I'm just gonna go through the defense matches this week. I had a pretty good week overall. I didn't change anything for the setup in the end. I'm still thinking about it. Like I mentioned last time, I don't like having the entire team, or half of the team, be blue. But I think unless I see anything really threatening to the team, I don't think I'm going to do any major changes until we see what the next mythic is. Because if it's a defense mythic and I manage to get a copy, that's probably when I'm going to do a major overhaul of the dark defense. At least unless it starts just failing constantly, but that hasn't happened yet. Everything's mostly the same. Hell's in her bonus week this week, so she's a lot harder to deal with than usual. And even outside of the bonus week, Bramamund is still really hard to deal with properly. Farsave has been working out pretty well for Felix, too. We actually got to see that a few times through the week, and it was fun. It was fun. So yeah, it wasn't quite a perfect defense week, sadly, and it was only by about 20-30 minutes that we actually lost lift instead of having this happen in a control zone. But, I can't really complain. Especially when, well, everything else is just a wall of success. Alright, let's get started on this first one. This was an interesting way to start things off. They brought a +10 air and a +10 Marth with a really budget build, actually. I think this is just meant to deal with any melee armors or physical units, but it's interesting. I'm not really used to seeing a +10 Marth be so budget, actually. They're all running things like Special Spiral and Distant Counter, but the Close Guard does help him support Edelgard too. Although, I mean, if he's the one who's going to be dealing with melee, I don't know why he's running it. Their Edelgard is probably the main carry of this team. Distant Ward is honestly really solid, as long as you don't run into archers. And, I mean, most archers aren't really going to be able to do much to Edelgard and Marth anyway. Duopini is just a, really good support. And just the combination of this and her weapon and Joint Drive attack. It's +10 attack to anything that's in range of it. It does a lot, especially when you add in something like a Duolin. Not that they have one here, but Milla is Milla. Sabotage is a great skill, honestly, if you're not running Tamari on air. It just helps blunt everything and makes it a lot easier for your tanks to actually survive. So I spend a turn getting into position, picking up these Aether pods. Then plonk Edelgard on the defense tile. This always feels really hopeful. Even if you've isolated one of the dancers, Edelgard is not going to be able to deal with Eliwood. Full stop. And he gets to Gale Force on through, pick up an easy knockout. Yep. And once she's panicked and off of the defense tile, Bram can clean up the rest of her health. And then a couple of warps. Put them in range of air as well.
Death comes to me.
Yep. And even with their bolt tower clipping a couple of the units, they're not going to be able to win from there. This one was really fun to see, although a little odd at the same time. This is the first Lynja I've seen since I added Farsave to Felix. I don't know why she's not using an assist skill, but oh well. Disarm Trap is really good for her. They also brought a bonus week +10/+5 Raphael, and he is spooky, seriously. That's a really impressive Raphael. I love it. The peony. Leon is an interesting one, honestly. I love the time spells on him. Lets him just get an instant noon time on the first combat. Which is probably all he'll need, honestly, is just that first heal is important. At least when you're dealing with Cavlines and things like that. So, and this one, as fun as it was to see, really weirded me out because of this. I have to imagine
You've shown your weakness.
that they just didn't look at the combat forecast, because there's no reason to take that, even if it's applying the debuffs for his bow. Yeah, and at this point Raphael's just panicked and under half health, and very easy for Bram to finish off.
Maya, I'm sorry.
No, they might have been doing that deliberately just to get the fight started, even if it seems really weird, and would probably be better to do that with air if that's really what you wanted to do. And Bram just cleans that up. They keep going here. Their bolt tower lands a perfect shot,
You're a wonder.
and Lynn can clean up the people outside of Felix's safe range really easily.
Go for it. This is it. Yes, what she said.
And from here they dance back and just retreat. And I think they were hoping that Felix would get left behind, or get too far ahead. Unfortunately, Hell swaps him right back into the perfect spot, and I think they checked the forecast here, and Leon can't kill Felix, and neither can Lynn.
To be you, Ephraim.
Nazar just warps in, takes Leon down. And Felix just doesn't break formation there. It was actually really interesting. I'm not sure why he didn't move. I think they were at least hoping to get him out of position and maybe try to win it from there, but nope. This is why I'm not really worried about Lynja anymore. There was another match this week too, I think, that someone brought her. But we'll get there. This was another interesting one just because it highlighted a different part of why Felix is actually doing really well with this, with the safe skill. So, this one, we missed their bolt tower, and they brought a fully charged Ophelia. So, it's honestly a really good way to do this, especially with two dancers, since you can just basically sweep anything with an Ophelia that is working with a bolt tower on top of a charged special. So they just spend the first couple of turns waiting for that. Fun to note that I don't think Felix actually would go down to just the Ophelia here. They needed the bullet tower damage as well. And this was actually another really fun interaction. So, and one that I hadn't known before. So when they go in here, and Ophelia attacks Hell, her special activates before the save skill. So if she had been using a different special, she wouldn't have actually hit Felix with it, and he would have actually won that fight. Yeah, so they hit and run, but it's not far enough. Even if they isolated Azura, she still lets Eldigan warp in and dance Bram.
Meet your defeat.
Fading fast.
And from here, I think they sort of slowly realized that there was another
Death comes for all.
awkward part to Felix getting hit by Ophelia,
Good luck.
and that's that Ophelia no longer has a charged special, so she has no safe attacks she can make. Dorothea gets to finish Bramway off here, thanks to the dagger debuff from Air. But at this point, there's still an Eliwood running around uncontested.
Death comes to me.
And Azura's not isolated anymore, so Hell picks up a good knockout on Ophelia. And without that, they really don't have a way to finish this map.
Stars.
This one, as nice as it is to win the defense matches, I do feel bad for this one. That's just because they don't have any ladders left. And yeah, if I see that, I kind of am actually rooting for them to be able to finish. Their star of the show is Selena, who... This is a really impressive Selena, honestly. She's so bulky. Although, her Refine really could be better. And they backed her up with a lot of support between Lucina and George and Peony and a Tamari Air. And having no follow-up Pulse Smoke helps her out a lot. Although, I do have to wonder if she'd be better off with a Mystic Boost or something that lets her heal. It might have helped her out here. And she, even with no follow-up, she can't actually deal with Eliwood, but they do a good job of trapping him so that he can't get Wings of Mercy and he won't get Gale Force because of Pulse Smoke. And I think they were expecting Selena to finish Bram off with that Ignis. Unfortunately, she doesn't quite get there, and those 4 hit points are enough for Bram to just wipe George out because, well, George is a lot less threatening.
I won't lose. I knew this would happen.
And since Selena's so low on health, Azura can just wander in and finish her off. And they can finish Eliwood off with Lucina, but at this point it's kind of hopeless. and they just concede. Again, I feel a bit bad about that one. Hopefully they had better luck with the rest of their week. This one was interesting. I think it's, especially during Hell's bonus week, I think it's very important to make sure you bring something on the team that can actually handle her, or finish her off, or just, yeah, deal with her from full health. This team brought in Julia, who is very good at doing exactly that, thanks to the guaranteed follow-up from her weapon. They also brought a Shinen, another Tamari Air. I think this is going to start being a pretty popular build for her. It's really effective, honestly. And bonus week Freya. Even with minus attack, she is very, very scary in her bonus week. They don't get the Bolt Tower to work with, though, and I think that really messed with them. Because they spend several turns just wandering around trying to clean up these structures and look for the best opening. And getting rid of this Panic Manor is important, along with the Dark Shrine that I think they picked up in the next turn. And basically just keeps Freya safe. Oh no, they just went for it here. And they went for a very odd double tank strategy. And, well,
You've shown your weakness.
between guard and Felix's really solid defense, Shinen's not getting anything done there. And as strong as Freya is, she can't really deal with an impact effect. The dances come through, Hollywood gets to Gale Force.
Time to sleep.
Yeah.
Lord Selith.
If Hollywood gets into a backline, he's really, really good at what he does once he gets there. And Brammy can just finish Freya off. Again, she has a hard time dealing with impact effects, so... Yep, and that was enough for them. This one was interesting to see. I think I mentioned this before, but it's pretty rare to see a full sweep of the player's team. Usually they concede or finish the match before that happens. This team brought a bonus week Corrin. I really do like her in her bonus week. And I think honestly I'm going to be keeping mine around in win seasons. Even without the bonus week active, she's really, really good. I brought a Norn along. I've never really thought about building her myself. Well, part of that's just because I never pulled a Midori. And I think at this point, if I do, I'd probably give Spendthrift to Felix instead. But, hey, maybe someday I'll get one. I just spend the first few turns here cleaning up the structures. The Panic Manor especially is important, just because if they're going to plunk somebody on these defense tiles, they don't want those buffs getting panicked. And they don't really have too many options since our catapult sniped their bolt tower. And they just plunk and hope for the best. Unfortunately, it's pretty rare to find something that can deal with Eliwood just attacking into them. And once he gets danced, Peony doesn't have Pulse Smoke, and she can't survive Eliwood anyway, so he just gets to Gale Force through her and pick up the air on top of that.
Death comes to me.
And once she's off the defense tile, Norn just has no chance of dealing with Bram.
Meet your defeat.
Oops.
Ground Orders does some fun things with these movements. He ends up getting to pick up Lucina as well, and, well, once they're left with him like Corrin, it's not ending well for them. Especially when she can't even finish Eliwood off here. A lot of this is because she doesn't actually have her weapon active, since Eliwood's not at full health and she's not defending. And she also doesn't get to use Negating Fang. Yeah. Then Bram just moves in to clean up the match.
I won't lose.
The future.
Alright, on to the next one. This was interesting, just on the heels of the last match. Just because it involves a Corrin that's the star of the show. This one has an Eliwood support, who can give her the full spectrum of buffs thanks to his Rally and Vision of Arcadia. She's running Null Follow-Up, which is something I really considered for my own. I haven't given it to her yet, but I might. I think it really does help her deal with some of the more annoying threats, like, say, a Bramamond or anything that she can't quite one-shot, but would be able to two-shot if they didn't deny her follow-up. Peony, nope. Mela, and Air. The usual trio. They did get a lucky shot with their catapult, breaking the healing tower, but I don't think it really mattered much here. And that's just because they decided, well, Corrin can handle all of this. And they're not wrong. Although I'm not sure if she would have survived a second round with Bram. It would have been pretty close. But she does have Null Follow-Up, which stops Bram from just crushing this fight completely. Unfortunately, she can't quite finish him off, and they left Mila in a really exposed spot, so Bram just moves in to pick up the easy knockout. Partly because, again, I'm not completely sure if Bram would have been able to finish Corrin off or not, but I think he picked up Mila just because of a hit point factor. Now, even though he did pick that up, Corrin does an excellent job tanking her way through the rest of the team. And this was, to me, it kind of was a way to tell me that I might be relying too much on follow-up manipulation. Because a good null follow-up tank, like Corrin, can really just eat her way through things. To be fair, it helps a lot that she's colorless and in her bonus week. But it's something to keep an eye on. They could have finished the match from here really easily, but they decided to just surrender it. They would have lost 30 lift at least, so they're not using Freya. So I guess that's enough for them. I'm not going to complain. So, until I saw this match, it was actually the second match of the week that was my favorite out of the successes. I mean, seeing a 22 hit point Felix just not able to be taken out by the Fallen Leon and Duo Lyn was fun. But then I saw this. So they brought Altina. It's a joint drive attack and drive attack. Not upgraded, but it doesn't actually matter here. They brought a +10 Peony, a +10 Freya, who, oh god, this is a horrifying Freya. And a +10 Air. And the star of the show is their +10 Winter Altina, who's also running joint drive attack and fierce stance. So this was a great way for me to see how well Felix does in this scenario. And it turns out that he does very well. They just sort of plunk Altina right away and be like, she'll be able to handle everything. And Felix is like, no.
Do I look merry?
But the gifts.
And then a dance lets him move in and pick up Lucina as well.
Father, I'm sorry.
Yep. I mean, it was very good to see a maxed out Altina taking this on, because I haven't actually seen one before now. And now that I have, I think I'm, yeah, pretty happy with how Felix does. Now, it was a bit unfortunate to see this as the next match after something as fun as the last one, but I think the most annoying part about it was how close it was to being in lockout because of how quickly the match after it happened. But at the same time, this was it was just really cleanly executed. This is a Gale Force team, and I haven't seen a whole lot of these, partly just because I don't think most of them would work against this defense. This one works specifically because of Duo Paula, and I don't think I'm wrong saying this, but I think this is the only duo skill that resets itself, so that you can use it multiple times without a duo's indulgence. And they make a lot of use of that here. On top of that, they get the extra action for Paula from this Tiki, and Wings of Mercy on Air, Tiki, and Peony, sorry. Let them all catch up when they need to and get back out after they trigger a bolt trap, which is part of their strategy, since they also have Ardent Sacrifice to help Paula get into her desperation range. It's a really, really well set up team, and annoyed as I was to actually lose some lift this week, that feels a little silly to say, but as annoying as it was to see it actually come in at the end of the week and stop me from getting another rank 1, this was really good to see. I don't think I'm going to change the defense based on this. I think fixing it would require a lot more than just switching a skill or two, unless I give Azura Spurn or something. So, unless I start seeing this happen a lot, I'm not going to drastically change the defense to try and deal with it. And that's partly just because it requires some pretty specific units. I think this is the first duo Paula I've seen since she was a bonus unit last year. Yeah. Wings of Mercy just lets them get air back out safely, and they can get into position to start this. Although, interestingly, I think this is the second match I've lost to a Halloween Tiki play in the last few weeks.
We're right there with you.
Nope. Mellywood does just enough to push her into Wings of Mercy range, which lets the entire chain follow in.
I'll keep you safe.
And like a couple weeks ago, Felix can't do much against a Tiki warping in onto him like that. Makes me want to put Edelgard on this team,
I believe in you, Paula.
since that would really shut this entire thing down. I just don't know how I would fit her in. Warping air in here is important because it enables Paula's whole triangle attack thing, which is the only way she can actually knock Hell out here. And of course the combination of duo skills is the only reason Paula can get back out there to deal with Hell. And the warps are what let them trap Bramond against the healing tower, which is not something I've seen before. And then they can pick these pots up and finish off the match.
I'll join the fun.
It was a really well executed play. They had to use all 7 turns to get it done, too. And I think the combination of that and how rarely I've seen Tikis and Palas is why I'm not going to really change too much of my defense on this one. It's always good to bounce back from a loss with a win. If this one had just been about 30 minutes earlier, we wouldn't have lost any lift. Oh well. It was still a fun match to see. They brought a +10 duo Alphonse along. Completely maxed out. I mean, you might be able to add a solo seal instead of distant defense, but I'm pretty sure that's a deliberate choice. They brought Peony, Mela, Air, give them that triple mythic boost. Yep. I mean, duo Alphonse he's aged very, very well, honestly, over the last year. He's still just really, really strong, and he's solid on a defense team too, with the right skill set. I've never managed to pull him myself, but I think I do alright. I just spend the first few turns clearing up the structures. And they are actually very careful to avoid giving Alphonse any visible buffs because they don't want them to get panicked by the panic matter.
Happy New Year!
The slight problem, of course, is that Felix survives this with quite a lot of health to spare, honestly. The interesting part was that Eliud actually survived this too.
A new year.
And I think that part is just because, well, they couldn't give Alphonse any visible buffs. Otherwise, yeah, it would get panicked. And, well, surviving means that he gets to get danced and picks up an easy knockout on air. He can't quite finish Dorothea off because his push skill is disabled because he's at 1 hit point. Then on the other side of the map, we have Felix taking another hit from Alphonse. And yeah, that drops him easily into range of Bram just finishing him off.
So much fun.
And with Alphonse down, they don't really have a way to finish this map, so they just surrender. This was honestly a great way to finish the week. Successful defense is a nice way to finish the week on its own, but this team brought about as much support for a Lynja as you can manage with their duo peony, a normal peony, with attack tactic, and a level 1 peony who is literally just here for that weapon. And also the Freya, who's giving her a flat attack bonus. So even though this Lynja isn't fully merged, she's still got very nearly the upper limit of what you can hit for, attack-wise. And clearly they figured, well, that'll be enough. I think they're like, okay, well, maybe we just need to line up all of the peonies. And then that'll be enough. And then start thinking, okay, well maybe we just need to break these structures because we're going to need more than just Lyn. Even though we don't get to actually see this forecast, I think they were checking it out a few times across these turns. Turns out first save on Felix is very good at dealing with Lyn. I think they ended up deciding just to try and hit and run.
I am death itself.
Problem is Freya's not going to be able to knock Hell out on her own. Not without several actions being spent. They decide, well, we're just going to pull back and hope for the best. I think they were trying to bait Eliwood out with their level 1 peony, so that she wouldn't, that he wouldn't get a Gale Force and wouldn't knock out anything that they
Fading fast.
really wanted to keep. Unfortunately, the hit point rule means that Eliwood's going to pick the target he can knock out with the most health. And they end up losing 2 units instead.
Time to sleep.
This is about as lopsided a fight as you can get there. Goodbye, level 1 peony. And they just surrender here. I think partly because Felix kept himself in the middle of everything except Eliwood, so Lyn still just... Lyn can't actually get anything done here. Freya might be able to knock Bramamond out, but... maybe... I don't know, maybe they could have finished it from here with Freya and then follow up with Lyn. But losing 2 units was enough for them to pop out. Anyway, it was a fun week of defenses. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.